DJ Doug Peterson is disappointed in his offense, especially after last night, and an odd night for Tyrod Taylor. That's where we start today. Browns and Eagles Thursday Night Football. Browns had made it very clear this preseason that Tyrod Taylor will be the starter over rookie Baker Mayfield, but when Taylor had to leave the game last night with an injured wrist, Browns had to be scared. He did return to finish out the first half, but never returned to the sideline after halftime. Baker came in and he sputtered with the first unit, only throwing for 76 yards and a pick on the night. CC, before we get to Baker, what do you make of Tyrod Taylor getting back in the game after leaving with an injury? Were you surprised the Browns brought him back in a preseason game?
Get the Browns. If I'm Tyrod, I'm going back in the game. Yeah. Like, why would I continue to tell you guys this. I think if I'm not on the show, this happens to be my show, there's something, I'm either on vacation or I'm doing something very, very, very important that I wouldn't be here. I ain't gonna let nobody sit in my seat. Ain't nobody gonna be co-hosting First Things First on Chris Carter. No, we trying to establish ourselves. If we've been doing this 15, 20 years, yeah, I'll take 6 weeks vacation, have people run in and out and everything. No. Tyrod knows who he is, all right? No one is giving Tyrod a whole bunch of confidence, even since he's left college football. When he went to Baltimore, he was pleased to be able to develop there. But they never told him, hey, you're going to be a starter. No one's ever promised him anything. He went to Buffalo. You know what they did since he got them in the playoffs to end their drought? Oh, they got rid of him. They got rid of him.
Tried to get rid of him while
there are certain players in the NFL, they know who they are. They have great perspective, great insight. They don't think they're someone else. He knows that kid, Baker Mayfield, the first opportunity is going to get in there. You said it. Cleveland Browns, they're pubbing him up. They want him in there. You think he's not seeing all that? Why would I give him the chance? If I'm not hurt, if I don't think I'm going to hurt the team, I'm going back in there. There's more work to be done, and that's why you saw him immediately get his helmet from staff and immediately place himself on the sideline with the coaches to let them know I'm available to go back in and do my job. That is the mentality, especially of someone who is a journeyman and someone that can be replaced easily by Baker Mayfield. No, Tyrod did the right thing. That's what I would do that. I would do that even late in my career. Guys would know, don't come in for me. The guy's like, the coach told me to come in for you. No, I'm staying in. And Denny Green would be like, Chris, come out. And I'd be like, okay.
Okay, but you have to assume that the Browns want to take care of him. The Browns know that they need him for the games that actually count. So why would the Browns, despite what he says,
I don't think it was the type of injury that they were worried about further injury. I think that, listen, I thought when it happened, I tweeted it out, I thought he broke his wrist. I thought there was a fracture in his wrist. It bent funny to me. I was devastated for him.
People are going to amputate his arm. But football players, we have to play. When you're when you can lose your job, all right, like he knew he wasn't injured.
But he's already been named the starter, so why would he lose his job?
Hold on a second. Wait, let me do this real quick. Because if he had a broken wrist, though, he wouldn't have been able to go.
He wouldn't have been allowed.
Of course.
They wouldn't have given him his helmet.
No.
They would have removed that variable from him.
Exactly. That's the point I'm making, is he's on the sideline. At first, right after he goes down, players start calling over the training staff. He hops up and runs. They then take him into the locker room, assuming to do an x-ray. They realize he does not have a broken wrist. And then exactly what you're describing is what I think happened, which is that he said, no, like I can't, I have been named the starter, and I am the starter in name. But I also don't just have a first-round pick behind me. I have the #1 overall pick of the draft behind me, a guy who you, I think, very intelligently yesterday pointed out the team on its Twitter account is putting out, letting him goof on the GM. Like, as much hype surrounding this player as anyone in the draft. I cannot get Wally pipped here. Like, that's not going to happen to me. It's going to happen to him eventually in the pregame. I think Troy Aikman mentioned it, that Tyrod's the 29th starting quarterback for the Browns in the last 20 years or 10 years, and pretty soon Baker's going to be the 30th. We all know, is Strahan that said it actually, that eventually Baker's going to take over. This is a unique situation because in the meeting before the show, our producer Keta said, for the vast majority of starting quarterbacks, if you have any type of injury in a preseason game, no matter how minor, your coach isn't letting you go in.
Totally agree.
Right. This is an outlier situation.
And those quarterbacks know they don't need to go in because they have solidified their position not only with the coach but with the organization.
And is this, so the only question would be, in your eyes, something like this, did the Browns, was he at further jeopardy for further injury by going back in the football game?
What difference does it make if they're going to put the kid in anyway? Like, I mean, football players, other players play with nicks and bruises and bumps. That's what he had. Once they got past, is he injured or not, we know what the inevitable is, all right? Baker Mayfield is going to play. And as a veteran player, you would be naive, not being aware of what's going on around you, if you would think that, you know something, I'm just going to let him play the rest of this 3.5 quarters of the game. That would not be a good professional move. And now, I don't expect people who watch football to understand that mentality, but Tyrod has the right mentality, and the coaching staff understood that.
And I said yesterday on the show that the one of the reasons I was excited to watch yesterday's game was Tyrod has done everything in his power to hold off Baker. Because Baker's played up until last night, he played well in the first 2 preseason games. But Tyrod hadn't made a mistake yet. Tyrod was 75% of his passes, led the team on scoring drives. And we mentioned yesterday that, barring injury, Tyrod was going to be the week 1 starter, but the narrative could shift with a bad Tyrod Taylor game and a great Baker Mayfield game. It could have really shifted with a Tyrod Taylor game where they haven't scored points and he gets dinged.
What would the question be if Tyrod had not come back in? What would the first question starting the show be?
Right. Is Baker Mayfield now going?
And you know what Tyrod did? He removed that question by coming back into the game.
Except that Baker did come out in the second half and didn't play well. He actually had probably one of his
worst preseason
poorer games, that he's had.
But he doesn't know that going into it.
Correct. He doesn't. Except that he has, I don't know, he has the notion that he's the starting quarterback, plus the general manager, who has a history of when he makes a
Baker
declaration.
Mayfield does not have that notion.
No,
Tyrod Taylor does.
Tyrod does not think that he is like a starter. He thinks, I'm a guy that right now I'm actually just driving the car. He can't think that he's a starter with Baker Mayfield being the #1 overall pick. Does that make sense to you guys?
No, it makes sense.
You're going to be out a few weeks until that heals, non-throwing hand or not, unless you're a defensive lineman where they can just put a cast on it. Like, I thought he was significantly injured. When he came back on the field and there was nothing on his wrist, I said, oh, okay, so it's not broken. They obviously did the x-ray. And then he wanted to remove all doubt because Chris is right that every show in America would be asking, even if the report was the exact same injury report, no fractures, just got injured, or just got hurt, I should say, the question would be, okay, is Baker the starter now? Now, maybe not if Baker plays very poorly, but there was no way to know if Baker was going to play very poorly.
So quickly, before we move on, what did you think of the way Baker played last night? Who had a better game, Tyrod or Baker?
Neither one of them played well. Their offense, they sputtered. The best player on their offense, I thought, was Carlos Hyde.
Yeah.
And you can see he's a quality running back. He's going to add a lot to their offense. They need another wide receiver. How dependable will their tight end be? That's going to be proven out over the regular season. He wasn't creating a lot of separation. Very good athlete, good prospect, good project. But Jarvis Landry is not enough from a wide receiving threat. They need Josh Gordon. They need someone else to be able to step up so we can look at the quarterbacks and be like, no, this is a football team. As an offense, they didn't play well. All right? That's how you get 5 points. All right? There's no way you can leave a game with 5 points unless you're playing against the 85 Bears, Ray Lewis, and the Ravens and be like, hey, I'm happy. No NFL team's going to be happy with that. So neither one of them played well. The offensive line did not help them. But also, they're going against a good to great defensive unit with great personnel. So, no, there's no need to say which one of these guys look better. They didn't look good as an offense moving forward. So try to make the distinction between, Tyrod looked better, Baker looked better. I can't do that. Offensively, they didn't look good.
The thing you said there that I think is most interesting is you believe they need another receiver. That Jarvis Landry, as wowing as he's been in practice, as big of a story as he's been through Hard Knocks, and as good as he'd been in the first couple preseason games, that you don't think he is enough of a speed threat for this team right now to be the offense they want to be.
You need more variances. When Philadelphia decided they wanted to come after the Browns last night, they couldn't stretch the field. They couldn't throw the ball down there with the guy who they were afraid of. No, Jarvis Landry doesn't do that. Quality wide receiver, but they need Josh Gordon. He would add a big punch to their lineup.
Best player for the Browns yesterday was Myles Garrett, and we'll talk more about him later. He looked like the guy they drafted, different guy they drafted number 1 overall a year ago.
And then speaking of receivers, Des Bryant's name is back in the mix. We will talk about that as well. But coming up on the other side, are the New York Giants on the verge of a comeback season for the ages? That's next on First Things First.